as well. Low tonight, 19 degrees, northwest wind at 15 to 25. And then for
Good
tomorrow,
morning. Welcome to the
light
Greg
snow,
Belfrage Show. Hope you had a
3 and a
terrific
high
weekend,
temperature
and we're hard at it for another week. So let's get underway here.
If news is happening, you're hearing it now. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com. The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
I love the Greg Belfrage Show.
I've been listening to you for years, Greg. Thanks for all you do and keeping us informed.
You sound a little taller on radio.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense, no prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I don't believe in a no-win scenario.
This is the
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Monday, December 9th. It is really great to have you along this morning. The big story is what's going on abroad. President Joe Biden addressing the nation yesterday, talking about the regime change in Syria, and there are a number of stories regarding Syria that are trending this morning. So I'll run down a lot of these for you coming up in the next half hour of the program. But President Biden taking credit for the decline in support from Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah for Syria's Assad regime, saying the reason they withdrew their support from the past week was that both nations are far weaker under the Biden administration. He said the United States will do whatever we can to support them, including through humanitarian relief, to help restore Syria after decades of war and the generations of brutality by the Assad family. And he said the fall of the regime is a fundamental act of justice. Again, this is President Joe Biden. He said it's a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future for their proud country, he said. So also, U.S. Central Command announced yesterday that it had conducted a series of airstrikes in Syria. They're targeting ISIS camps as well as operatives. And these were precision strikes, they said, on over 75 targets. And they said they emphasized that initial assessments indicate no civilian casualties. So the United States hitting back. Axios has got a couple, as one of the things I do each morning is we go around to a number of websites, and I share the top stories with you at a number of websites. Axios has several stories. The top several stories at Axios this morning were about the United States and what's happening in Syria. Axios says the U.S. is working with several other countries in the Middle East to prevent chemical weapons that the Assad regime has from falling into the wrong hands. So now there's concern that with the collapse of the Syrian army and these other security forces, you got chaos that's underway there. And so what will happen with to those chemical weapons? Whose hands will they fall into? Also, Axios has a piece this morning following up on this, and they're saying the culmination of 14 years of war in Syria was accelerated by 14 months of war between Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, so on. Now, there are those who are saying these are good things that we see happening. You know, that things have been falling apart for some of these forces. So we'll see as we move forward. Closer to home, Donald Trump, in an interview with NBC News, he sat down with Kristen Welker of Meet the Press and touched on a number of things that he would carry out, he says, on day one. So Trump said this was his first network television interview, and now it aired yesterday, but they actually spoke on Friday. And Trump said he would fulfill his campaign promise to levy tariffs on imports. He said, Kristen Welker asked him if he could guarantee American families won't pay more as a result of his plan. Trump said, I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow, Trump said. Said he would not raise the age for government programs like Social Security and Medicare. He will not make cuts to them as part of the Department of Government Efficiency and those spending cuts. He was asked if raising ages or any of that stuff was off the table, and Trump said, I won't do it, Trump said. He talked about hearing from Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, and said, we're having dinner, Trump said. He said, people like me know, it's different than the first. When I won the first time, I wasn't nearly as popular as this. And one thing that's very important which is true, Donald Trump is absolutely right about that. He wasn't. This is because of the decline that we have seen in the country. Donald Trump has become more and more popular. And so Trump said, one thing that's very important in terms of the election, I love that I won the popular vote, and by a lot, he said. And then they talked about 2020, and I think Donald Trump is not served well by getting into conversations about what happened in 2020, because there's so much work to do going ahead. But of course, that's where Kristen Welker and the legacy media love to go. They want to talk about 2020. They want to get Trump sounding off on that. So they actually covered a number of topics. The minimum wage, immigration, Obamacare. And Trump said he would consider raising the federal minimum wage. But he said he wants to talk to the country's governors, he said. Trump said he'll release his full medical records because Trump will be 82 by the time his term ends, which is the same age that Joe Biden is now. He said he does not plan to divest from Truth Social. He said, I don't know what's to divest. All I do is put out messages, he said. And he also said he would not try to replace Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. In fact, that story is trending this way. This was a pretty substantive interview with Donald Trump. He had a lot of things to say, and a number of those individual stories that are trending. And again, I will run down a lot of this for you in the next half hour. So he talked about mass deportations. First will be convicted criminals, he said. And he was pressed on whether the targets would go beyond than that group. So he said, well, I think you have to do it. And it's a very tough thing to do. But you have to have, you have rules, regulations, laws. They came in illegally, Trump said. Yeah, it's not Donald Trump's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault, yet people coming into the country illegally. And you had Democrats, of course, come on in, waving them in. That's not Donald Trump's fault. That was a violation of law. Trump was also talking about deporting all these people. He said, you have no choice. First of all, they're costing us a fortune. But we're starting with the criminals, and we've got to do it. And then we're starting with the others, and we're going to see how it goes. He's open to talking about dreamers. He said, I will work with the Democrats on a plan, he said. Praise the dreamers who have gotten good jobs, started businesses. became successful residents. And Trump said, we're going to have to do something with them. He also said, and we'll talk about this morning, that he wants to eliminate birthright citizenship. He wants to eliminate that. And this is, so the birthright citizenship, that's the 14th Amendment then, that guarantees citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil, regardless of their parents. And asked about the likelihood that doing that would face legal opposition, Trump said he would, in that case, he would consider amending the Constitution. He said, well, maybe we'll have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. What do you think about that? Birthright citizenship. We have talked about it in the past. It's been an issue. So I touched on a lot of things in this NBC News interview. And we'll get into I'll get into this in more detail over the morning. But one of the things I want to make sure I leave with you before I move on to other things that are happening this morning, Trump was saying being asked about if he would comments that he had made in the past, the members of the deep state, includes Democrats, will he go after these people? And he said, do you think that's right, sir? Kristen Welker asked him about him going after Democrats. And Trump, said, well, if they think that somebody was dishonest or crooked or a corrupt politician, I think talking about Kash Patel here, I think he has an obligation to go after them, Trump was saying. But are you going to direct him to do it? Are you going to direct Kash Patel, who Trump has nominated as director of the FBI, are you going to direct him to do this? And Trump said, no, not at all, not at all. We have two great people. We have him and we have Pam. And Pam Bondi has been like a rocket ship. She's very popular and very good and very fair. And Kash Patel is very fair. I'll tell you, I thought Kash may be difficult because, he's a strong conservative voice. And I don't know, I don't know of anybody that's not singing his praises. The other day I was watching Trey Gowdy, who's a moderate person and very smart, very respected in the party. He's Kash's biggest fan. He said, this is the most misunderstood man in politics. He's great. I guess they worked together on the Russia hoax or something. Trey Gowdy became a fan. He said everybody respects him, and just like him, others also. I don't know of one negative vote. I don't think he's going to get any negative votes. So Trump talking about Kash Patel. And talking about making the country successful. And I will share more of that with you coming up a little later in the program. Also, big stories this morning. Donald Trump was in Paris on Saturday for the opening of the Notre Dame Cathedral and was sitting very near First Lady Jill Biden. They were separated by a seat because the Macrons had Donald Trump sitting in between them. So that Donald Trump was not sitting shoulder to shoulder with Jill Biden. There was a seat between them. And at one point it was empty. And the two of them are having a conversation, Donald Trump and Jill Biden, and Trump being very, very polite and has talked about that. And then he turns around on Truth Social and posts a photo of him and Jill Biden at this. And he says, here are my new Trump perfumes and colognes. I call them fight, fight, fight because they represent us winning. Great Christmas gifts for the family. So he's pushing his fragrances And that's a big story at foxnews.com this morning. Donald Trump using that to push his fragrances. Also at Fox News this morning is a piece with legal analyst Greg Jarrett talking about Daniel Penny's defense. And he believes that the defense may have been handed a partial victory after he granted the prosecutor's motion to dismiss the most serious charge on Friday of second-degree manslaughter. So you can read more on that at foxnews.com. While we're talking about Donald Trump, New York Post has got a piece, Trump saying that Vladimir Zelensky is ready for peace. And so he said that these were comments he was making during his trip to Paris. And the Post did a phone interview with Donald Trump. And he said of Zelensky, he wants to make peace, he said. That's new. He wants to have a ceasefire. He wants to make peace. We didn't talk about the details. He thinks it's time, and Putin should think it's time because he's, when you lose 700,000 people, it's time. It's not going to end until there's a peace. So he said that Zelensky talked to him about how to end the war. And Trump said, I'm formulating a concept of how to end that ridiculous war. Among the big stories this morning at the Washington Examiner, John Thune's aggressive agenda. So they say that Senator Thune, the Senate showed up to work 102 days, last year. So now Thune is setting a much more aggressive schedule for 2025 that will almost double their number of working days in the Senate. And the Washington Examiner says this is the type of congressional leadership Trump needs from Republicans if he's going to have a successful second term. Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. And I think the Senate in session more often is part of that. Also, the Washington Examiner, among the big stories there this morning, Laura Trump is resigning as co-chair of the Republican National Committee. She announced the decision on social media last night. And there are questions that actually she may be setting her sights on a seat in the U.S. Senate. At thehill.com this morning, they have got a number of takeaways, 5 takeaways from Donald Trump's Meet the Press interview, U.S. Launching airstrikes against ISIS camps in Syria. That's just a huge story this morning. Don't want to speak too little of that. And we'll be getting more from Fox News Radio throughout the morning. Also, Donald Trump naming Alina Habba as counselor. She has been one of his personal attorneys. And Trump saying she's been a tireless advocate for justice, a fierce defender of the rule of law, an invaluable advisor to my campaign and transition team. She's been unwavering in her loyalty, unmatched in her resolve, standing with me through numerous trials, battles, countless days in court. So he has named her as a counselor to the president. Also, over at Newsmax, a couple of stories that Representative Andy Biggs told Newsmax yesterday that the nomination of Pete Hegseth as defense secretary getting really close to having the votes. And Representative Biggs said, I've been talking with my senator friends, and maybe it's an echo chamber because they're my friends, but the reality is we believe that Pete Hegseth is going to make it over the hurdles that are there, and he's going to be confirmed, he said. And he said that Trump deserves Hegseth, who will do a tremendous job. He said, I'm an eggs in one basket kind of guy, and I'm an all-in for Pete Hegseth. That's Representative Andy Biggs. And then, meanwhile, Kevin McCarthy, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, told Fox News Sunday Morning Futures yesterday, he said right now it looks, he's talking about Congress here, right now it looks like they're going to finish this year's funding. They're going to push that into next year's funding. So that means if you're putting more burden on President Trump, you're not giving him the honeymoon. So he's saying the government funding has got to get done this year. They got to get that done by March, he said. And if they don't, that'll be undermining Donald Trump's agenda. And that's a look at the big stories this morning here on Kello. We'll get into those in more detail over the course of the morning. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. It's always great to be with you. Start another week. Thanks so much for being here. All right, it is 6:26 this hour of the Greg Belfrage Show, brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires. See in-store details about how to get rebates from major tire manufacturers. 2 Sioux Falls locations to serve you.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Renewal by Anderson Picture and Combination Windows. Optimizing a beautiful view and light in the bedroom, kitchen, or living room from ABC Seamless of Sioux Falls. Call 605-646-2667 today. Creating a holiday meal that lasts a lifetime is the Diamond Ring specialty. You'll find unmatched customer service and an array of luxury jewelry for any budget. Don't wait until the last minute. Visit the Diamond Room by Spectre. There is no comparison.
At Avera Orthopedics, we're transforming pain into possibility every day. Whether you're chasing a personal best or simply want to enjoy life to the fullest, our specialized care is designed to help you feel better and stronger. We're here for you. No referral needed. Trust Avera Orthopedics to unlock a world of endless possibilities. Visit avera.org/orthopedics and start your journey from pain to possibility today.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
Slow it down.
Izervay isn't to slow GA progression. Izervay or avacincaptad pega is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today. Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
More clouds coming in from the northwest today, and the wind picking up out of the northwest. 20 to 40 this afternoon. High temperature at 38. For tonight, low temperature 19, some passing flurries, and then tomorrow we could generate a little light snow or flurry activity. High temperature 31 with cold wind from the storm center. Right?
And in Sioux Falls at 6:30, clear skies and 34 currently at Kello. Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center this morning. Sioux Falls police have arrested a suspect believed to be the gunman in the Empire Mall shooting that happened on Friday evening. Also, a Sioux Falls family is without their home after an early morning fire yesterday. And a South Dakota driver behind bars for speeding over 120 miles an hour in a 65-mile-an-hour zone over the weekend. Wow. I think that person may have passed me. So Joe will have details on those stories and more coming up here in moments on Kello.
Statues and posters of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad are being torn down now that he and his family have fled to Russia, his government overthrown by rebels. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says it's surprising how little resistance those rebels got.
There's a potential that elements in the area, such as ISIS, could try to take advantage of this opportunity.
Israeli troops have taken control of a buffer zone on the Syrian side of the border and launched airstrikes at suspected weapons sites. Multiple reports say baseball superstar Juan Soto is going to the New York Mets.
Juan Soto agreed to sign the richest contract in major professional sports history. The 26-year-old four-time All-Star will sign a 15-year contract with the Mets, worth a reported $765 million.
Fox's Jared Mack. Soto was a New York Yankee last season. He's been a star since making the big leagues at age 19. America's listening to Fox News.
News brought to you by Sioux Falls Implant and Sedation Dentistry. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. Sioux Falls police have arrested the suspect believed to be the gunman in the Empire Mall shooting that happened on Friday. SFPD have 18-year-old Jaden Michael Justice Bingham of Sioux Falls in custody. The incident occurred shortly after 7:30 Friday night when 2 or 3 shots were fired inside Empire Mall after what apparently was a disagreement among a group of teens. No one was hurt. Bingham is charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault. More details are expected to be released at the police media briefing later this morning. A Sioux Falls family is without their home after an early morning fire yesterday. Fire and rescue was called to a house fire around 9 a.m. Sunday on South Dunlop Avenue in southwest Sioux Falls. No one was inside the house at the time and no injuries were reported. Authorities say the fire was put out in about 10 minutes after crews arrived. The Red Cross is currently assisting the family that was displaced. A South Dakota driver is behind bars for speeding over 120 miles an hour in a 65-mile-an-hour zone on I-90 over the weekend. Authorities say the driver was also arrested for driving under the influence and was nearly twice the legal limit. Sioux Falls Mayor Paulton Haken says heightened political rhetoric makes running a growing city more difficult than it has to be. Add to that the financial pressures created by declining tax revenues. The mayor says with that in mind, he's hoping state lawmakers can stay focused on doing the business of the people.
We're in a divisive time right now. Politics is gross and people are mad. How do we just put some of that anger aside and say, okay, culture issues aside, what's the basic blocking and tackling we have to do to keep up with a city that's growing to 5,000 to 6,000 people a year?
The 2025 legislative session begins.
Something to that, I think.
And in college football, both South Dakota State and University of South Dakota football are moving on to the FCS quarterfinals. The Jacks sped past Montana 35-18, and the Yotes grinded out a 42-31 win over Tarleton State. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Weather brought to you by Intech Cleaning and Restoration. If you need it clean, call the Intech team. IntechClean.com.
Mostly cloudy skies today. High temperature 38 with a northwest wind this afternoon. Pretty gusty at 20 to 40 miles per hour. And a few flurries as well. Low tonight, 19 degrees. Northwest wind at 15 to 25. And then for tomorrow, some patches of light snow. Blustery and a high temperature at just 31. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm Brian Karstens.
When you want to feel plugged into the community, keep it on Kello. News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com.
It's just 16 days till Christmas, and it's not just Santa's elves burning the midnight oil. Cyber criminals are working harder than ever over the holidays to separate you and your money. There's a big scam spreading right now. I'm Kim Commando for T-Mobile. Their advanced 5G network now goes farther than ever before. Visit T-Mobile.com/55 today. The #1 holiday scam that's trapping tens of thousands is the free iPhone giveaway. You get an email and the word free jumps off the screen. There's the familiar Apple logo. And again, in those big letters, no catch, no cost, win in minutes. Just answer a few questions by clicking the Get Started buttons below. And there's the trap. The instant you click those buttons, your phone is infected with spyware aimed directly at your financial data. Credit card numbers, bank account numbers, and all your passwords. You can lose everything. This one's dangerous. Don't bite the bait. 600,000 people like you start their day with my free newsletter. Sign up at getkim.com. Even if you think it's a bit overhyped, AI is suddenly everywhere, from self-driving cars to molecular medicine to business efficiency. If it's not in your industry yet,
Hope you had a great weekend. I actually got my holiday shopping going over the weekend,
So how do you
which is
without
like
costing
unheard of
spiraling out of
the
control?
last few
Time to
years.
upgrade to the next generation of the cloud.
So I got a number
Learn
of
how to
things
secure
taken care of
It's a
yesterday.
laser fast and secure platform for your infrastructure,
Got
database,
family coming this
application
year.
development,
Excited
plus all
about
your
that. Some
AI
of them
machine
anyway.
learning
My kids are
workloads.
coming.
OCI costs 50% less for computing and 80% less for networking. Thousands of businesses have already upgraded.
So it was a little bit. It
Oracle's
was a
offer to
little
cut
bit
your
fun.
current cloud bill in half if you move to OCI.
I was
Offer ends December 31st.
bought some gifts for my
2024.
granddaughter.
See if
Just
your
a couple. I had my
company
hand. One of
qualifies
them's
for your
fairly
special
large.
offer
I got my
at
hands full. I'm holding on to this. Got another package, smaller package in my hand. Ran into a woman several times who's like, "You should have a cart for all that." I'm like, "No, this will also stop me from just grabbing impulse items." So I hope you're ready for the holidays. I'm excited about it. Generally, when we get closer to Christmas, don't want to misspeak here. Actually, pull up the calendar. We get to the week of the 23rd. I will be off that entire week, and then about half of the next week I will be off. So I generally take extended time off over the Christmas holiday, and I just enjoy having that time off, being away from the news, and I stress out about some of these things, and you can't do anything about it, So I just really enjoy having that time off. So I want to give you a heads up about that.
Taxes open extended hours and weekends at 2 convenient locations. Call Nest Tax.
Hey, a word from my friends at Washington Crossing. If you are looking for a welcoming, comfortable place to call home, Washington Crossing is just the place. And they have units that'll be opening soon. They've got some that are available, others that will be becoming available by the end of this year. And Washington Crossing has a number of living options. There are also daily activities. There's a chef at Washington Crossing, which if you decide you would like meals as part of your package at Washington Crossing, the meals are great, and it's a nice time folks gather. And also, if you are interested in maintaining an active lifestyle, or you just want a peaceful setting with support available when you need it, you will find that at Washington Crossing. So don't wait. Give them a call today, 605-271-9273. Schedule a personal tour and learn more about the units that they currently have available. So that's 605-271-9273. Discover why so many call Washington Crossing home. Washington Crossing, life made simple.
Okay, some mornings you might not have that get up and go.
Ooh, but at least you can get up and know.
The Greg Belfrage Show, with insightful opinions on the latest stories and frequent weather updates. It'll get you in the know while you're getting ready to go. Kello News Talk 1320, 107.9. Entertaining talk and new.
6:39, clear skies, 34 currently at Kello. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, the big story is what's going on in Syria with Assad leaving power. And so Fox News has a story. A group of unknown gunmen stormed the Iranian embassy in Damascus yesterday after Islamist rebels took the city, overthrew the Bashar Assad regime. The Russian foreign ministry said that Assad fled the country, left instructions for a transfer of power. Also, Bashir al-Assad found asylum in Russia after fleeing the country yesterday. This is according to the Kremlin. So Vladimir Putin had propped up the Assad regime for 10 years. So Assad is very closely allied with Russia. But with troops tied down in Ukraine, he could not help defend his regime when Syrian rebels then began advancing after Hezbollah had been decimated by Israel. Speaking of Israel, with all of this going on, Israel reported yesterday that they had seized the peak of Mount Hermon. Forgive me, I think it's Mount Hermon. It's the highest mountain in the region. And they did that as a precaution against the advance then of Syrian rebels as the Assad regime had collapsed. Because, when you see this happen, when you see these regimes collapse, it's absolute chaos. And now whether the chaos will wind up being good in the long run, what remains to be seen. Or whether it's going to be an absolute mess. So Donald Trump yesterday called for an immediate ceasefire and negotiations between Ukraine and Russia to end the madness. So he made his comments after meeting Zelensky in Paris. These are the first face-to-face talks that the two of them have had since Donald Trump won the election. And Trump said on True Social, Zelensky in Ukraine would like to make a deal and stop the madness. There should be an immediate ceasefire and negotiations should begin, Trump said. I know Vladimir well. This is his time to act. China can help. The world is waiting, Trump said. So Trump met with Zelensky on Saturday for about an hour as Trump was in Paris for the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. And Trump and Zelensky shook hands and smiled. So Zelensky saying on X, when we talk about effective peace with Russia, we must first and foremost talk about effective guarantees for peace. Ukrainians want peace more than anyone else. He said, if the war is talking about the war, it cannot simply end with a piece of paper and a few signatures. A ceasefire without guarantees can be reignited at any moment, as Putin has already done before. To ensure that Ukrainians no longer suffer losses, we must guarantee the reliability of peace and not turn a blind eye to occupation, he says. So are we seeing the first steps forward to a lasting peace? We'll see. Also, and we were talking about Donald Trump at the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral then on Saturday. So French officials solved an awkward dilemma and they seated the First Lady of France between Donald Trump and Jill Biden, because Joe Biden's wife and daughter were in the front row at the ceremony. So they said the presence of Trump and the outgoing president's family presented protocol planners with a headache, and saying that this was such a bitter election. Donald Trump, though, and there was another story I just glimpsed this morning of Trump talking about visiting with Jill Biden and the First Lady, and that it was, harsh things are said during the campaign, but you just, that's how it is. You just can't let that get to you. You can't be affected by that. You can still be very pleasant and nice. And Donald Trump, big smile on his face as he was visiting with Jill Biden on Saturday. Also, a lot of stories regarding Trump's visit to the reopening of Notre Dame Cathedral. The Prince of Wales met Donald Trump while he was there. So they shook hands at the ceremony and then met afterwards, with Trump describing the prince as a good man, doing a fantastic job, Trump said. So Prince William, it's believed, talked about the importance of the U.S.-UK special relationship. So Prince William attended at the request of the UK government. Trying to look for details on what the two of them had remarks, that these stories get into so many details, but they don't tell you much of what was actually said. Also, Donald Trump, in an interview with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press over the weekend, said he does not plan on attempting to fire Jerome Powell as the chair of the Federal Reserve once he takes office next year. He said, no, I don't think so. I don't see it, Trump said. I think if I told him to, he would. But if I asked him to, he probably wouldn't. But if I told him to, he would, Trump said. And then he was asked, well, do you have plans to fire Powell? And Trump said, no, I don't. Is that story? Powell's been out there in advance of Trump taking office saying he's not going to leave, and Donald Trump can't force him out. And so Trump taking a much different tone on Meet the Press yesterday. He was also asked about the January 6th prisoners. And Trump said on his first day that he said he would pardon them. He said, I want to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases. Yeah, but I'm going to be acting very quickly. First day, Trump said. I'm looking first day. Trump said these people have been imprisoned, he said. And he said, how long is it? 3 or 4 years? They've been in there for years. They're in a filthy, disgusting place that should not even be allowed to be open, Trump said. And he said that, and then he talked about January 6th and Liz Cheney, and that she was behind a lot of what was going on. So, also Donald Trump doubling down on his support for Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump's nominee for defense secretary. And this was on just a lot of news that was made on this Meet the Press interview that Trump did over the weekend. And Trump said, Pete is doing well now. I mean, people were a little bit concerned. He's a young guy with a tremendous track record, actually went to Princeton and went to Harvard. He was a good student at both, but he loves the military. And I think people are starting to see it. So we will be working on his nomination along with a lot of others, Trump said. So he was asked, well, do you still have confidence in Pete Hegseth? Trump said, yes, I do. I really do. He's a very smart guy, Trump said. I've known him through Fox, but I've known him for a long time. And he's basically a military guy. Every time I talk to him, all he wants to talk about is the military. He's a military guy, Trump said. So has he gotten assurances from senators that Hegseth will be confirmed? Trump said no. But I think he will. Yeah, I've had a lot of senators call me up saying he's fantastic. I've spoken to people that know him very well, and they say he does not have a drinking problem, he said. So he's taking a very optimistic tone regarding Pete Hegseth. If we could send a note to the squishes in the U.S. Senate. The Village people love that Trump is a fan of YMCA. Victor Willis has U-turned on his opposition to Trump using the song at his rallies. So he is the founding member of the Village People, 73 years old now. And he had said at one point he wanted at his political events, he wanted Trump to stop using it. And you heard this a lot. Trump would be using music and these bands would stop. But Willis now is changing his tune. He said he didn't have the heart to continue fighting Trump's team after seeing how much the president-elect seems to genuinely like YMCA, he said. Because you watch Trump, he's out there dancing around, to YMCA. And so Willis is saying, this is Victor Willis, saying he recognized that Trump was having a good time to the song. And so he's done an about face. And then he said on Facebook that the song was never intended to be a gay anthem. Said he knew nothing about the Y being a hangout for gays when he wrote the lyrics back in the 1970s. And so he said, I just, the hang out with all the guys, at the YMCA, that's back in the 70s, that's the way you just talked. So there wasn't any kind of gay undercurrent of the song, is what Victor Willis is saying. But he very much giving the green light to Donald Trump to continue. Now that the rallies are over. All right. Also, December 7th, this weekend, National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. There were a number of stories that were trending over the weekend. So this year, we marked 83 years since Japan attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor. Number of sports stories that are trending this morning. And I'll touch on these. And it has to do with the college football and the playoff set. Things are pretty much set. You got 12 teams. And number one, Oregon staved off Penn State to win the Big Ten title. Clemson also stunning SMU with a last-second field goal to win the ACC championship. The Georgia Bulldogs won this year's SEC championship against the Texas Longhorns. And these are all stories that are trending this morning. And number 15, Arizona State, dominant, Iowa State. Arizona State was the winner to win the Big 12 title game and earn a playoff berth. So those of you who enjoy college football, it's really heating up now. We head into the playoffs. Also trending this morning, the ruby slippers that were worn by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz sold over the weekend. They sold at auction. Are you ready for this? Are you? $32.5 million. The most valuable movie memorabilia ever sold at auction. So the slippers are one of 4 surviving pairs from the 1939 movie. This is the pair that was at one time stolen from a museum that had them. Remember that? So the winning bid was $28 million, with the buyer paying an additional $4.5 million in fees to the auction house. That is just absolutely crazy. Wow. That folks are You know, we love this kind of, and a piece of movie history like that is really something. Also trending this morning, Mark Withers, actor Mark Withers, he's known as one of the stars of Stranger Things, died at the age of 77. He has had a battle, he's been battling pancreatic cancer. And his death was announced by his daughter. So he passed away November 22nd. And his daughter says he confronted his illness with the same strength and dignity he brought to his craft. Creating a legacy of warmth, humor, and dedication, along with his remarkable ability to make every role unforgettable, she said. Other stories. President General Manager of Tyler Perry Studios has died in a plane crash. Steve Mensch was killed at the age of 62. Also, Dominique Brown, who is an influencer based primarily on Disney, died at the age of 34. She consumed, she had eaten some food that had ingredients that she wound up being allergic to. And it took her life. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Thanks for starting your week with the Greg Belfrage Show. It's always so great to have you along this hour of our show, brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
New Empire's most talked about talk show.
Well, thank you, my friend, for being here. Please come back at 9:30 for the fourth hour. You can catch that live at 9:30 on YouTube and Facebook, or anytime at kello.com, because I post it afterwards, generally each morning. So I hope to see you again soon. Thanks again.